everybody. Welcome to a new episode of the Lowcode-Approach podcast. I am Sean Fiene, a senior product marketing manager on the Power Platform, Copilot Studio team, and whatever else I'm being tasked with for the week. And I'm joined by
Wendy Haddad. I'm a senior customer experience program manager on the Planner team, and I am joined by
Our resident bacon aficionado actually got her title right this time. I am so very proud of her. Hi, I am Ken Auguillard, Principal Program Manager in, what do we call it now? Managed Platform, not Managed Environment. And with us today, we have Andrew Gaskins. Andrew, how are you? Who are you? What are you doing here? Let's talk.
Hey, thanks, Ken. I am really good. I'm Andrew Gaskins. I'm a principal solution architect here at Lumen. And Lumen, if you don't know about us, we're redefining what it means to be a network company in a multi-cloud AI first world. So we're building the backbone for next generation applications where fiber, automation, intelligence converge to deliver secure, scalable, and digitally consumable experiences. And our mission is to empower enterprises and public sector organizations to move faster, innovate smarter, and operate more efficiently. So as part of that, I have the pleasure of working from the Copilot Studio side, the Copilot, the integration with everything that's happening there from the Agentic platform. So it's pretty exciting to be here today.
Very cool. And you said the magic words of Copilot Studio and Agentic, which means we got to talk about something we love to talk to you about. By the way, Andrew's a repeat guest on this podcast. Like we'll put show notes in for the episode that Andrew was on before. But Andrew, we want to talk about admin. We want to talk about the admin's role with agents and like how do admins lead innovation through governance strategies? And I would love your take on that. Like at a high level, what was the first thing that came to mind when you were tasked with rolling out agents at work?
Yeah, that's actually great. And so, and really quickly, I have to pause you on that one because you said a friend of the show. A while back, you on one of the podcasts mentioned me at the beginning and said, Andrew Gaskins, a friend of the show. I was in the car with my son, and for about 107 yards at 65 miles an hour, which is about 3.4 seconds, I was the coolest dad ever. So thank you.
I love that. That's awesome.
Who's your son's name?
Liam. Yes.
Well, shout out to Liam.
Shout out to
Shout
Liam.
out to Liam.
Hi,
yes.
Hi,
Yep.
Liam from the pod.
Yes, and
We're
Liam,
looking at the 6 now.
Liam, I promise to harass your dad even more to have him take you to more Gundam places and so on, because Liam likes Gunpla.
Nice. All right. A man of taste. That's awesome.
Yes, exactly.
Now, sorry, back to the topic at hand.
So yeah, if you look at like what we did at Lumen, so we started on the Copilot journey back when it was the 300 people who could join during that. So we're over the 2-year mark now. And so we looked at, bringing in Copilot, and that was really still before even the Copilot Studio had started. So we kind of started in on that side. We slowly rolled it out. Over time, we hit 8,000 Copilot users, recently scaled up to about 10,000 users. We started in on the declarative agent side, working with all of you as well. When we talk about like the bleeding edge, we have the scars to prove all of it all the way through. We've had that experience from the code first into the agent builder, and then starting to bring Copilot Studio into play. So like I said, before Power Virtual Agents wasn't something that we really focused on due to cost. And, we looked at it and we're like, from a cost standpoint, bot framework, things like that, they made more sense. But then once everything started to happen with Copilot Studio, with our licensing, and then seeing how everything was interconnected, that's when we started to kind of look at this and look at how it fit into our overall strategy from the Power Platform side.
So you mentioned the scars, and we're definitely going to want to get there. But before we do, I want to level set a little bit in terms of personas, because I think that, I know as a former admin and working on security reviews, there's that mindset of everything must be reviewed the same way. And there's been this evolution on the Power Platform side to think through both in terms of the thing you're building, in this case, agents, the risk level, but also the who is building it or who is using it, and that risk level too. So can you walk us through a little bit of your mindset of both your personas as you were deploying agents, but also like what lessons or principles did you use from that Power Platform deployment and environment deployment to then apply here with agents?
So I'm going to work backwards from what exactly what you just said. So managed platform is key. So, and I know that, at Lumen, we're fortunate. It's a luxury for us to have a managed platform all the way across due to licensing, but that kind of set in place from the beginning, our strategy, our dev test production strategy, how we work with everybody on that side, our DLP now moving to groups and how we've changed that. We've been really eager to follow how Microsoft IT has worked on that. So a lot of what we do, we pay attention to what you're doing because we know that you're, customer zero, as you've said before. So that, to us, that brings kind of a level of assurance to that. So Power Platform as a whole is well adopted and well governed on our side. So if we take that and then we move to the next step with bringing Copilot Studio in, when we did the first evaluation of that with security, they were able to look at it and say, okay, based on the guardrails that are in place that Microsoft has done with tooling, they felt comfortable blessing it and saying, let's start using this. Now, obviously, we kind of started at, the retrieval agents first. So, knowledge, things like that, those make sense. But because of our DLP strategy, and again, the DLP moving to the groups, they know what we're doing within those confines. And then when we're ready to move outside of that, then we know that's where kind of that break point is, where then we move over and we talk to our AI COE. So again, a lot of it comes back to the managed platform and how that's impacted us being able to sell that safety and that security.
So Andrew, would you say that, because we've talked about this in the past, and I think even Forrester and Gartner have publicly talked about establishing a zoned framework, if you will. How do you at Lumen determine who gets to do what with Copilot Studio? Is it everyone gets to do everything, or do you have specific use cases, zones, and so on? Can you talk a little bit about that to us?
Yeah. So originally, back before build, our idea was we were going to really lock this down in terms of, people coming to it and being able to use it, getting them to go through some training, having some validation there before people were kind of set loose on it. And then talking to Diganta Kumar, he's like, why are you doing this? Why don't you just let everybody have it? And I was like, what are you thinking? Like, why in the world would you do that? And then we kept talking over days. And then in the last session that Zohar did, and MSIT was there and talking about the zone strategy and everything, and was kind of like, oh, I get what he's saying. So we came back, we revisited not only our dev test production approach, but then how do we implement our zone strategy? So we followed the zone strategy. We branded it to Lumen. So we have the core network, the Spark, and the mesh. So from our side, the core is going to be everybody. So again, through our groups, through the DLP, through routing, we're able to put everybody into their own development environment. No sharing, specific first-party connectors, and even those are somewhat limited, and no publishing to teams, except if you have a Copilot license, then you can publish to teams because, again, we know you're not going to get in trouble. But this allows you more familiarity with the tool and what you can do, but provide that value, because what we're looking at is long-term, like what is that ROI on the M365 license? Not just what Copilot can do and looking at it from, the credit consumption, but how can we better use that not only as your daily tasks from the M365 Copilot and then to the declarative agents, but then really getting into Copilot Studio. So then we have that zone. And then the next zone is going to be for the teams and for those smaller instances. And those are the groups where then they go through an intake process with us. And we look at what they're doing. We check to see if they have funding, because we'll use the pay-as-you-go strategy for that. Assign resource groups. Right now, we're doing it as either business unit equals an environment, or in some cases, the agent itself equals an environment based on security or however that's going to line up. So that strategy there then says, okay, they're coming in, everything that they're asking to do has been approved already or blessed by our legal, by our security, by the AI COE. But then let's say they come in and they're like, you know what, we want to access some data that is outside the realm of this, or we want to write some data back, or we want to do something autonomous. then that's the point where from our intake process, we actually pause that and then we bring them into another AI COE review. And then once we have that blessing, then we bring them back into, then we automate our creation, of the environment, set up the pipelines. Pipelines is crucial in how we can do any of this work as well. And then that last step is think about like the HR for everybody, that app, like the employee self-service or something like that. That's the one that's going to live in that final mesh group, or I guess what you'd call like that red zone.
That was a lot and it was fantastic, but I'm going to pick it apart.
Okay,
So
yeah.
you talked about the fact that we don't let people publish to teams unless they have a Copilot license, and then it's okay. Why?
Cost. So we know that with the new alignment on the cost, that those who are licensed, they're not going to have to worry about consuming credits. So the other idea was, instead of just locking everybody else out, we can keep them from publishing, but they can still use that test pane and they can still get the value of using Copilot Studio on that side and learning about that. And then if they get to that point, then obviously they can go and they can request a license on their side as well.
So Andrew, let me ask, a little bit of what you said and help Wendy sort of pick this apart, because now you're also talking about cost management as well. And that's part of your job as well now from a governance perspective. So
I think so for almost every admin at this point, isn't it? I mean, just to some degree, like that's, we have a responsibility to make sure that it doesn't just go through the roof.
But
would
you say that, because I'm listening to what you said, Wendy's right, you said a lot and it was brilliant, but it sounds like you're using everything in the product, Andrew, everything. Honestly, like, I've known you for a while, but I had no idea you were using everything. So the question is, yes, you're managing the costs, but you have to spend to be able to use these tools. Are you seeing ROI? And what does your ROI look like? Is it because now you're seeing increased productivity? Is it that you have lower admin overhead? Can you talk to us about that a little bit?
Yeah. So, I mean, there's definitely, there's a cost associated to run the platform at scale and to run it properly. Like I said, earlier, like we're fortunate that we have that. But it also helps us to keep our team smaller and tighter on this. From an ROI standpoint, that's kind of what I was alluding to earlier, is that over time, what we want to be able to do is show that ROI through the activity of agents, how often they're used, trying to pull that data in by the Copilot Studio kit. That's how we'll start to show where that ROI comes in. We've proven over time how valuable the Power Platform is as well, and what we've done through automation, what we've done through app modernization, and then things like the modernization of our process through pipelines, things like that. So that's how we've been able to show the value there. But like I said, showing the value through ROI, through how many people are using it. So I can tell you right now, with this new strategy, just under 1,600 agents, which are in this approach, which are protected and are not something we have to worry about. That's 1,600 people who are at some or agents that are in some way benefiting and reducing that time to do other tasks.
Do you consider those agents to be production agents, Andrew? Because you talked about the zone and the innovation and having the core and everybody can do everything and having 10,000 users.
Yeah. Those are personal productivity.
Okay.
But then there's the declarative agent side too. So then I can,
I was going to say, is that 1,600 declarative agents or is that 1,600 Copilot Studio?
That's Copilot Studio. Then there's more on the declarative agent side as well. Wow. So yeah. So we're actively involved with that.
I think we're going to give you a new nickname. You're going to be Mr. Everything. That's how we're going to introduce you and everything, and probably the name of the podcast. Yeah, seriously. I do want to go back to one thing you said before, that there's a COE review, right? And that there's members of the COE team. One question that often comes up in conversations that I have with customers or even with the field internally at Microsoft is, what is the COE composed of? Like, who is in there? What are the members of my organization that I need to bring in to have a COE? And you're doing at such incredible scale. I would love your insights at how you handle that.
And just so I'm clear, so everyone's clear, when we say COE, because we say COE toolkit a lot here sometimes, right? You're talking about, for Andrew, Center of Excellence, Center of Enablement, your team, that's what they're
Yeah.
called.
Yeah. Correct. Thank you, Ken. I appreciate that.
So this COE is outside of our team. So this is the Lumen AI COE. So this is comprised of ambassadors who represent different parts of the company. This is legal. This is security. So these are people who are also involved on the pro code side, who understand, what's happening at the model level. So it's not just where we are, it's where everything is. So that's that group who then comes and reviews it. And so there's a panel when these come up, a new agentic technology is brought up, as a possibility to implement. These are the people that are looking at it, and they're going over it with a fine tooth comb. And then they're the people who also said, okay, we look at Copilot Studio as an agentic product that has those capabilities. And that's where they said to us, yeah, you're good within these guardrails. Go ahead. When it goes outside that guardrail, come back and talk to us. So that's where we help them. And then our part of the process too is once we have our production. So back to your question earlier, Ken. So we do have those production agents now, which are out there as well. And we actually have a backlog of those right now that we're getting ready to approve. Once those go through, then we actually pass that information over to the AI COE. So they have a full catalog of that as well. So everything agentic across the enterprise is cataloged.
So you went over a little bit of the interaction between the COE ambassadors and the admin. Can you give me a little bit more insight in the back and forth on that? How do you overcome a challenge from the COE team? Like, have you been like, no, there are tooling and features that we have available. How did you prove to them that there was the feature to remove the obstacle or the objection?
Number one, patience. Number two, education. So I think it's important for any admin in here to really understand this domain as much as you can. And I think before the call, Wendy, we were talking about, trying to keep up on everything all the time. And it is really important. It is so hard. But it couldn't be any more critical at this point in time to be able to do that. And it's listening to our community, because there'll be people in the community who will come back and be like, hey, did you see this? It came out 2 days ago. And I'll be like, no, I didn't see that. So let's go investigate that. Let's look and see, like, what is the impact on that? And if we see something on our side that is going to be impactful, then we'll actually go ahead and bring it up to the ambassadors in our weekly call on that side.
Andrew, I'm going to go again. So good today. So good. So many things to pick apart. So it sounds like you partner very closely with your other team, the AI team that you talked about, right? That Center of Enablement, Center of Excellence. So question there, how do they work with you to triage the requests coming into the backlog when your customers, your internal customers, want to do more?
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure you have some process.
They are. And so they're well-versed in what we can do, which I think also helps, because sometimes they'll catch it, or someone will already come to them with say, hey, I've already created this in Copilot Studio, and I want to release this. And they know, so they put the brakes on it and say, hey, you got to go over to the Power Platform team's intake. So we've got an intake process on our side that covers Power Platform projects, so apps, automation, but then also Copilot Studio. So we take all of your information in there, and we're automating that process all the way through right now. The next step for us is actually to use prompt columns to look at all the information that comes in, and then do kind of a weighted value on that to see if it's at the point where we're ready to review it yet. Otherwise, we'll kick it back to them and say, hey, you need some more description in this, or this doesn't quite fit based on the
tool to help manage the tool in a way. I love that.
Yeah. So let's dive into that, what Wendy just asked. So if you're using the tool to manage the tool, what type of information do you require with them? I don't want you to give away any top secret Lumen information.
No,
but do you require something like I don't know if you use ServiceNow or another type of tool like that. Do you require them to register in a enterprise application database or something like that, right?
Yeah. So there is the enterprise application side as well. To manage that flow, we use the environment as that application registry. And then we can associate the agents or the apps or the automations to that environment. Otherwise, it would just be
I actually
to
love that
manage.
idea. That is brilliant.
I've
Andrew,
never
that
actually heard of that.
I've never
It's
never
blowing
heard of
my
that.
mind a little bit of
Yeah,
like
that's actually
how that
brilliant.
works.
I don't know.
I might steal this.
I listen to the low code approach all the time, and I get ideas all the time.
You see
That's
the wheels
amazing.
spinning right here. Like
I feel
Wendy
like
and I are
that's its
both
own
thinking.
episode. I know. I'm like, you've solved a bunch of problems right there. I think that's its own episode. We're taking notes. Well, and another part of this. So I'm going to let people behind the scenes a little bit on the podcast. We usually do a little bit more prep work and research and prep with questions. We never always stick to the questions. We go off on whatever is discussed.
I never follow the questions.
Never,
ever.
never. Ken is the master of chaos here, and
I
I
didn't
am
even get the questions.
Captain
Yes.
Planet. So poor Andrew, we show up and we're like, did anyone send Andrew questions? No. Okay, we're winging this. So everything that Andrew is sharing is totally unscripted and he has no idea and we have no idea what's being discussed, which is more fun. So with that, I'm going to give you a loaded question here, Andrew,
Okay. All right.
because you mentioned at the beginning about the battle scars.
Mhm.
And you are painting the bright and rosy future of, wow, I can do all this automation and innovation. We've talked about ROI and I can do it securely and I sleep at night and I don't have redundant work. But you had battle scars to get there. So talk to us about that and help our listeners avoid maybe some of the pitfalls or traps that you guys unfortunately ran into so that they can have a
Yeah.
better experience.
So first you said I sleep at night. So that might be arguable sometimes on that. So let me frame this just a little bit differently, because it's so easy for us to talk about what it can't do, as opposed to what it can do. And I feel like the technology is so new. What we're embarking upon is so new that it'd be so easy to be cynical about it all the time. But when we look at it and say, hey, this is actually where it's benefiting me, this is what it can do, I think that takes some of the pressure off of the battle scars of what it can't do. We've been in, like I said, from the beginning with Microsoft. Part of this has been, private preview, early release, things like that. So they're self-inflicted, battle wounds on this side. We've seen how the champagne's made. Like I said, sometimes it's not as smooth as you would hope it would be. I think our biggest way to combat this is, again, it's through education. On this side, what we found is starting people from the declarative agent side is really key. So we really try to use that as the front door to everything else, because as a retrieval agent and then having that capability to teach people how to write instructions and how to reiterate and take that output, take those instructions, continue to work with them, helping them to understand, where things go off the rails in this, and understanding how to get it back on the rails. I was talking to my son before he did a week-long class of LLM and Python at a summer camp, and we were talking about it before, and he left, and we were talking about sycophancy. And so I told him, I'm like, okay, so go to Claude there and tell it, I've got $30,000 and I'm going to put it into my great idea of Jello on a stick, and I'm going to sell these in Houston. Tell me what you think about this. It was like, that is a great idea. People love Jello. You should put all your money into it. And I said, okay, now tell it to stop being a sycophant. And it came back. And it was like, yeah, sorry, that was a really bad idea. So it's kind of the same thing where we're getting people to understand that this is not a perfect technology yet.
Yeah.
And that they have to work with it. On our side, again, it's patience and understanding when to just kind of guide people away from it and say, it's not ready yet. But then when we have those wins, like on some of the things that we're working on with you right now that we've seen, like with researcher and declarative agents, when people see those, it's just like everything lights up. It's so cool. But there are hard bumps along the way, and it's not always going to do what you expect it to do, especially when you're working, when you move outside of that, real-time RAG and you're moving into Agentic, you've just got to be patient and aware that it is going to take you time to do it. I don't know if that answered your question or if I just went way off base on that one.
It was fantastic. Again, you gave us like a million follow-up questions to be able to ask. So I hope you've cleared your calendar for the day.
Andrew wants to stay here for an hour or two with us.
I know, right? I'm want to dive in a little bit more because you talked about researcher, you talked about really the declarative agents as well. And I know there are two categories, but I think there's a lot of fear. And maybe this goes back to the zone framework that we were talking about earlier, but I think coming at it from this approach, there's a lot of fear and concern about the proliferation of agents and declarative as well. And you said something about like, I want people to create declarative agents first as the front door and vets. I mean, do you care if people create them? How are you thinking about that? Is it something you mentioned training? Are you encouraging? And so, and really, I don't want to say soliciting or promoting, but are you promoting this technology for people? Or is it just, it's available if you need it? Like,
Well,
help me understand that piece of it. Or Ken, if you had something to add.
before you answer, Andrew, I've listened to a lot of customers have this just innate fear of the declarative agents.
Mhm.
And we talk about them and try to ensure them that declarative agents are very safe because of the nature of the agent
Yep.
itself. All
Yep.
it can do is just read what it has access to. Right?
Mhm.
That's it. It can't actions or anything like that.
Mhm.
So we consider it when we talk about the zones and the setup like of everything to be
Yeah.
in the green zone, if you
Mhm.
will.
Yeah.
So adding on to Wendy's question, did Lumen also see it as such that,
Mhm.
oh, hey, this was a very low risk
Good
thing?
question. Yeah.
So our CEO, Kate Johnson, it spearheads this. Okay. So if, I mean, her charge is that, we are an AI first company. And I would argue that we're one of the frontier companies on this and working on this. So that message has come from the top down. We've done training sessions with our executives, with our VPs on how to create declarative agents. So they see the value of this. They get excited because all of a sudden they say, hey, this is my assistant here to help me do this specific task. To your point, exactly. Again, it's within those guardrails. It's a retrieval agent. It's working with your semantic index. It's what you've already approved to be used with Copilot. So there's no danger inside of there. And we tell people, like, if you see something, it's back, you see something, say something. If you see something in your response that you're like, I shouldn't have access to that, then you need to let that person know, because that wasn't an issue with Copilot. That was an issue probably with your permissions on SharePoint, back to that side of securing your data and knowing your data there. So it's been almost like a meet in the middle, like, train from top to the middle and, from bottom all the way up, and get people comfortable with it. And this idea of, this is not here to take your job, but this is here to free you up on, that minutia that allows you to go do the more important work that you're actually hired to do. And then this getting to this idea of, becoming a manager of those agents as you start to build those out. So our company gets that. But again, I think it's the mindset that comes from the leadership first, which again, we're just incredibly fortunate to have that.
So top-down approach from everywhere else. And, your leadership is really saying this is something that we are all in on, so to
Mhm.
speak.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
it's a cultural shift, just much like it is here at Microsoft, with even Satya saying, hey, we're going to do this. We're going to use this. We're going to eat our own dog food, so to speak.
I know we're toward the end of the session, and I'm totally going to throw us all a curveball that might lengthen things. But you mentioned Microsoft, Ken, so I have to ask because we've talked about kind of the future of work and the org structure and how humans work with agents and
Mhm.
those skills that they need to develop. So as you're thinking and you've become an AI first company, how are you even thinking about the interaction? You mentioned the time saving, but the evolution of humans working with agents.
Yeah. So on our side, and this also kind of goes back to where that delineation happens. So, we're looking at ourselves as kind of like the agentic enabler for the modern workforce with what we're doing, on the Power Platform side, Copilot Studio, Copilot, M365, everything that's happening there. We try to think of it as like, hey, this is your intern that's coming in. Here's how you would work with that human. So like when we think about it, we're like think about that agent as a human. Think about it in terms of how you would instruct it and how you would, again, go back and reiterate with that person who is just learning this area and learning what it is that you're trying to do. So I think that's, it's back to just, we constantly are, we're teaching, we run office hours. I mean, there's every Friday, there's something happening across either, we have office hours for Copilot Studio every other week, have office hours and champions for Copilot on that side. I think from there to get to that point again, it's teaching people that these are just your new tools to use. They're just going to give you way better results than you had before.
Andrew, we covered a ton. And actually, what my favorite part about this episode was we asked one pretty simple question, but your response was so layered that we were able to ask a gazillion follow-ups. And there's more. Like, there's a side chat going on with us, and we're like fighting over airtime on
Who
this
asked the
episode.
next question?
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah.
Like, it's awesome. Like, it's great. But what that's doing is it's saying that we need to have you back sooner rather than later. And when we do that, one of the things I like to touch on is some of the success stories, right? Because when you get this new technology before you, like you said, it's a learning curve. You don't know what you don't know, and you have to modernize an existing process or bring, agentic AI into a new process. And what does that look like when done right? We've talked about some of the battle scars when maybe done wrong, or like trying to get over some objections. But I think these are great topics. What I would love to do is call out to our listeners to say, like, hey, go into our LinkedIn group, drop some questions that you want to pose to Andrew, and we'll be more than happy to ask him. I mean, he is Mr. Everything. And we'll get him back on. We'll cover all these topics because we have so much more to talk about with Andrew. Andrew, thank you so much for joining us. One thing before, is there anything you want to plug before you head on out?
Yeah, so keep an eye out. We're trying to get the default podcast off of the ground. We have some great people lined up who have agreed to talk to us. And what we are looking to do is from the admin experience, because admins, we can be kind of sad and lonely. I mean, we don't have a lot of people locally to talk to.
I am always happy, Andrew.
You are always happy. Okay. But yeah, that's true. So we thought, let's start a podcast where we can actually kind of talk about some of the admin things that are happening and try and help other people out on this. So we're hoping to get that fired up around the conference or sometime close to there.
Awesome.
One thing, Andrew, I know we will see you at the Power Platform Conference.
Yes, sir.
Because you are attending. Unless something changes, Andrew will be in the admin workshop. He will be our featured customer, he and Lumen. So please attend the workshop, hear more from Andrew, and ask him your questions yourself.
And Sean, I'll just leave one little nugget for you. For later, I'll tell you about how our chief of staff contacted me with her multi-agent. So,
dude, you can't like
what
just
I gotta leave you there.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Andrew. Can't wait for the next episode. That's gonna be great.
Thanks so much.